Well, hello there. This is Virtuoso Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. Today, I've got another brilliant game of the Vienna Gambit. And it's a really good example of just how venomous, how good the Vienna Gambit is against an opponent who might be a bit unfamiliar. Now, this was a game against another Aussie, still a Team Australia internal tournament. And they're reasonably good. Like, I just finished another game with them where they had the white pieces, I had black, and they completely crushed me. However, in this game, I dominated the game from the beginning. Let's go take a look. Now, the Vienna Gambit, of course, starts with Vienna game, which is e4, e5, knight c3. And my opponent here with the black pieces decides to play the Max Lange Defense. Against Max Lange, I've recently been always playing the Vienna Gambit. So this is the Max Lange form of the Vienna Gambit. If they decide to develop their King's Knight first, that would be the Falkbeer variation Vienna Gambit, which is actually the Vienna Gambit that is generally talked about without qualification, without clarification. That's a Vienna Gambit that most people know and love. This is still the Vienna Gambit, however, but almost no one ever talks about it. Pros and cons. The cons is that you're just going to have to play it to get used to the positions. The pros include that almost no one is really familiar against it. Now, with both forms of Vienna Gambit, one of the things that makes it strong is that black has only a single move that is good. In the Max Lange Vienna Gambit, the only good move for black is accepting the gambit. They have to accept. Now, with the Falkbeer variation, you might know that the only good move for black is to enter the main line. Unfortunately for my opponent, they decided to develop the King's Knight. In most common e4, e5 positions, that would be a very sensible thing to do, but not here. Those of you familiar with the usual Vienna Gambit will recognize that this is equivalent to the Vienna Gambit, the Falkbeer variation, where they decline the gambit with knight c6 on move 3. That's a mistake because captures, d4 with an attack, and the usual way this goes is black's gonna have to move their knight another time, losing tempo. Let's say they go here, and now we push forward with e5, we take full control of the center, attacking the King's Knight now, and that King's Knight has nowhere it can go on the board. And pretty much their best move is to undevelop back to g8, and we just win a massive gain in tempo. However, in this game, a very interesting thing happened. They ignored that attack and they decided to double down. Knight captures e4. Now, I've looked at this line before. I've studied it before, so I wasn't worried. I wasn't afraid. Basically, what black is looking at is it looks like they might have a really powerful attack there with that opened dark square diagonal, queen to h4 check. I'm sure that's what they was thinking, but after we captures, and yep, they give the check, looks like an absolute fork, but it's completely fine for us because this knight can now go to either f2 or g3. G3 is a little bit better. And the thing is, that blocks the check. The knight also defends the e4 square because that's just where it was at, which means there is no queen e4 with check. It can't take the d4 pawn because it's defended by the queen. And suddenly, their wayward queen is kind of just a bit offside without a target. And potentially, it's gonna get chased with my pieces as they develop, losing more and more tempo. Black continues to double down. Queen to b4 check. It's a mistake. Now, it looks like they want to clear the back rank so that they can castle their king. But here, bang, c3. And now they've got two pieces which are hanging. They short castles, that's fine. I take the knight. They try to replace their knight with the rook, playing really aggressively, but I am just too strong, just too good in this position. Knight to f3 defends that e5 pawn against the rook. with an attack on the queen. Of course, that bishop is still hanging. Queen's gonna have to move. The queen back, defending that bishop. That's fine. I take the before I take the bishop, I decide to give it a bit of a kick. Now that just simply gives me an extra move, puts the knight into some potential striking territory, and I was going to take here anyway. Captures, captures with check, block with queen, and the thing here again, this invites their queen back into my fold, infiltrating back, even though I know that the queen has no attack. Here it looks like they've got another fork of the absolute fork of the king and the knight. But just like before, the knight can move, the block check, and the queen has nothing. Here, I think they were trying to pop that knight here because either to force my knight to move, or it looks like if I capture with an attack, well, that will be a mistake, because there is now, in fact, a check where I can't block that check. So let's say I do something like this, or I move my queen, they win back material. Now, I saw that. That's fine. I don't need to do anything about it, because what's worth more than that? Look, they need to move. I've already got bishop to d3 with an attack on the queen, winning tempo. Queen, once again, forced to move. And here, very, very simple. Short castles, king now completely safe, bringing a rook into the attack as well. They tried to make an attack. D-pawn was probably best, either d5 or d6. High depth reckons d5 is better. Here, they've moved too many pawns in front of their castled king. And in fact, here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces ready to attack the kingside position. At high depth, Stockfish actually seized a force mate in no more than 12 moves. Mate in 12, obviously can't see that, but I have to admit, in the game, I was pretty sure that I was winning. Now, the ideas, well, firstly, I wanted to move this knight potentially, so to open up that diagonal. Potentially, I wanted to move this knight to open up, of course, that file. In this game, what I did first was to give a check. Firstly, to just get the king potentially. I thought maybe they'll move into this position, or this position would be good for me. Yep, because that pawn is now pinned. Now I decide to move this knight here with an attack on the queen, winning tempo, and also now with a double attack on that f6 pawn. They move. The queen here kind of makes sense, wants to snuggle in, but it doesn't really achieve anything. Check. King is now forced into that position, but now check. King is forced here, and here I thought maybe he, not too sure, but I eventually found this move. Stockfish reckons this knight move was best because that move ends up having a discovered pin of that pawn. So that's a little bit faster, but I was pretty proud of this move as well, because I saw that whether or not they took that rook, captured that rook, didn't matter. I still had mate along here, and if they did take, then that would still be mate, because check, and basically they're in some trouble if they if they try to move here. It basically just doesn't work for them. I'm completely winning. If they try to block, of course, that ends the game. However, in this game, they decide to counterattack with the d5 now. Doesn't matter, because check here, the rook is pinned, so king is forced forward. Just to note, all these squares are defended by my other pieces. So queen forward, check, that forces the king back into d8, and now coup de grace, the bishop makes one move, and it's the only move it needs to make, because bishop at g5 closes off the net. Good game, GG. The big takeaway from this game is that even if you don't play the Vienna, you need to learn how to respond against it. Woe be upon the unprepared. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.